Good evening, everybody. We're going to do this different this time. I'm just going to sit on the couch and I'm going to talk about this because we don't have any of this footage because I can't seem to find where it went. So we're going to do this a little different. Welcome back to the channel, the Fix It fam. This is just going to be a continuation of the Busted Bullet, but we're going to do it a little bit different this time because we have to kind of go through pictures and do it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit here and talk, and as I talk, we're going to scroll pictures across the screen and show you our progress as it went up to starting from where our last video was, which was where we were test fitting the panel. We're going to go through our final cut. We'll go through the prep work, the welding. We'll go through the primer. We'll go through the paint and the clear. And we're going to stop at that point right there, and then we'll continue on the next video. But we're going to go all the way up to the paint on this video. So let's start with our first picture. Our first picture. So you're going to see me looking down. I'm looking at the pictures on the laptop, and they're going to be the same pictures that are up here on the screen. So I'm not 100% sure where we're going to put them. Here, up in the corner. You know, I mean, you may just hear me talking. I'm not really sure what we're going to do. Anyway, we'll start from here. So this first picture you're going to see is basically where we left it off this last time. The quarter panel is completely put in. It's just kind of test fit. It's put onto the car, kind of slipped in place. This is before I separated the two pieces like I was saying in the last video. So what I did is I separated the taillight pocket from the quarter panel, and it made it a lot easier to go together. So in this picture, it just shows us where we basically placed the quarter panel on the car, and with it on the car, we kind of got an idea where we needed to cut. So after that, we go to the next picture. And in the next picture, you're going to see where we initially cut the white quarter panel from the donor car. That's not even the final cut. It's just where we decided to cut it to get it close to where we're going to cut. Because during the final cut, I cut through both panels at the same time, and that gave me the exact same spot with a perfect gap to weld in. And I'm not sure what size that gap was because I didn't actually measure it, but it gave me a good size, like perfect gap to make sure that when I was welding, it got to the other side of the panel too. On top of that, during this picture, we actually also test fitted the bumper. Keep in mind, this was the first bumper we had on the car. You'll see in the upcoming videos the paint work on the GT bumper that actually came off of the silver Mustang we had that ended up being a parts car. I used the V6 bumper to line everything up and to make sure my panel was put on in the correct place. So that's something you want to make sure you do. You have your parts so that way you can line everything up. Keep in mind, I mean, you're probably going to see some things in here that could have been done better. I was doing this in my garage with my own tools and not in a professional shop. I did this the way I was able to do it. So anyway, let's move on. So like I said, in this picture, we just did a rough cut, got it to where, kind of close to where we wanted it to be, and test fitted the bumper to make sure we were in the right spot where we needed to be. All right. So in this picture, it's kind of the same thing. It's during the day, so you get a better look at it. This is going to be kind of the same. I don't think we changed anything between those two pictures. No, only thing you're going to see is where the V6 bumper is taking off, and you can see where the other spots are. You can kind of see at the bottom of the quarter panel, you can see where the spots are that I'm going to have to plug weld, and where the previous spot welds were. I just hadn't got to that point yet. We're coming up to that. Anyway, you don't see the spots where they're going to need panel bond. I don't think this is. Yeah, this is. I haven't done the final cut yet through both panels in this picture. All right. Now in this next picture that you're going to see, I've actually done my final cut, and during my final cut, my cutter went off to the side a little bit, so I got a little bit wider gap that I had to fill up. It went just fine. I was able to. I actually used a backing piece to be able to place the other panel on, so I had something to weld to. So I essentially had to fill up that hole. It's probably not the perfect way. Of course, the best way to do this would have been to replace the whole quarter panel, but it would not have been cost effective to do that. So anyway, this is the final cut. It's in the place where it's going to be. It's just resting there. I haven't glued anything. I mean, I haven't put panel bond on in the wheel well or anything like that. I haven't welded anything in. It's just that's where it's going to sit. This is where we will weld it up and put the panel bond in and everything like that. So, all right, next picture. So in this next picture, it's just another angle of the same thing. More angles of the same thing. The black piece you see at the bottom in these pictures, it's a plastic piece that bolts on, and that is what I actually attach the bumper to. It clips in place to that piece. So if you see that piece, the panel is actually white underneath that. That's just on there so we could test fit everything as we're going along this. And in every step of the way, we are test fitting the bumper and making sure that it fits along with the tail light to make sure everything lines up. You want to make sure everything is lining up where it's supposed to be before you do any welding, any panel bond or anything like that, because there's no going back. You're going to have to cut the stuff back out if you do it that way. All right, on to the next. Okay, so in this next picture, you're going to see right above the gas tank, or the gas filler, you're going to notice that I took some paint off. All right, so a little story behind that spot. I'm trying to think. The gas filler has a pocket, kind of like a taillight pocket that sets behind that glues in place. Well, I got under the old core of a car that I had to try to push with my feet to get this panel off, not realizing that was actually like a panel bond or some kind of bonding adhesive that was holding that in. So when I pushed with my foot, it actually bent a piece of the quarter panel. So I had to sand that down and had to throw body filler in that spot to smooth it out. So that's why you see that sanded down in this picture, kind of up above the gas filler spot. So anyway, that gets filled in. But as you see here, once again, this is the final cut, final spot. It's just with everything put on, taillight, bumper, in place to make sure that everything fits correctly, which it does. Everything looks good in this picture, so we move on from that. Just once again, here's another angle, and then you see another angle from when everything's cleaned up around it. And everything in this picture, everything's put on for the most part. Obviously not the glass or anything, but everything's put on, wheels on, and you get an idea of what the car is going to look like. Make sure everything lines up, looks good. So we do this before we do any welding. That way I can make sure that everything's good. Alright, so in this next picture you're going to see where I put, I used some pieces to back up. The other quarter panel, so that way I wasn't, when I was going to push on it or anything to put it in place to weld those the stitch weld, it wasn't pushing too far and it would line up perfectly. Also, it helped me to fill in that gap that I had made where I cut off to the side. So here in this picture, you can see the clamps that are in the wheel well, and the clamp that's at the bottom of the quarter panel. Those are actually where I put panel bond. So there's panel bond all across the wheel well of this car from the factory, all the way down across the bottom of the quarter panel piece where the bumper would go, and all the way to the back. There's panel bond all through there, and that's the way it looked from the factory. So that's the way I kind of went back with it. Anyway, you get a better look at that spot where I had to grind down the paint, where I'm gonna have to put the body filler in above the gas filler also. So we'll you see those spots and everything. So we'll move on from there. This once again is just another picture after the panel bond set overnight. I believe this is the next day. I believe it's the next day after the panel bond set. I've taken the clamps off and I'm making sure everything's going to stay on its own as far as panel bond pieces go. Now after that, move on to the next picture. This next picture you're going to see is where I started doing my stitch welding. Keep in mind, this is my first time ever doing this, so it does not look pretty. It's not perfect, but these welds are did get ground down, so it didn't really matter. It's just they're built up so high that it just took me more time to do it. Alright, so in the next picture you see I've already ground down the welds. Okay, so in this next picture what you're going to see is you're going to see where I started to put in body filler. Now, I made a mistake in this picture. I started with like a 40 grit sandpaper, and it was just, the scratches were just too deep. And I had to switch to, I believe I switched to like 120 grit or something. I can't remember. I believe I switched to 120 grit and started sanding. It was eating away too much too quickly, so I switched. Okay, so in this picture you're going to see where I put the body filler above the gas panel. I'm sorry, above the gas, where the gas door is. I haven't sanded that yet. You can see the spot that has been sanded and the spot that hasn't been sanded. You can tell by, number one, by the color, just number two, by the texture of them. So you can see where I've started to sand in in the spot where the two panels met up, and then you can see where I haven't quite sanded yet on the spot above where the gas door goes. Same picture. Okay, so if you look in the next picture, we come up to where I've sanded down the spot above the gas door. So basically, I believe also, yeah, see, I pretty much can't tell, but it looks like I might have, no, I hadn't yet. Okay, so I've sanded the spot above the gas door, and I've also sanded the whole part of the white panel. And then next, I will go in, I don't think I have a picture of it, but I'll go in and I'll sand with I believe I sand the whole thing with a 400 grit. So I'll go with, and that's all the way up to the door jamb. I did not paint the driver's side door forward, except for on the up the A pillar and down the B pillar. I painted all that because it's one continuous line, and I did not want to end up with a like a clear coat line or a paint line or anything like that. So I just painted it all the way up, and it's one continuous piece. So you'll see that when I get to those pictures. So the next picture is just another angle. As you can see, I haven't sanded anything yet with 400 grit, so I haven't got to that point. Okay, in the next picture, I have primered up to where I'm going to primer. So this is my first coat of primer, so you're going to see a little bit of white coming through and everything. And I already sanded everything that needed to be sanded under the primer. So that's first coat of primer. Next picture is going to be my second coat, either after the first coat dried or it's my second coat. I think that, okay, it's after the first coat is dry. So I do throw on a second coat, and on the next picture you can see the final product, or the finished product as far as the primer goes. So the primer's finished, except I did not prime the taillight pocket because I ran out, I believe. But I did wet sand and everything with 400 grit sandpaper very well. I made sure every spot was covered. So I sprayed over it with, since it's going to be hidden, I wasn't too worried about it, but I sprayed over it with the base coat. Okay, so in the next picture, just another angle with all the primer done and everything like that. Another thing you can tell is I had to redo around the quarter window in the back. I had to re-primer all that and re-spray it, because when they took the window out, he used this I don't know, some kind of magnetic thing or something that created heat, popped that window out. Well, it bubbled the paint and it ruined it. So I had to sand all that down, and I had to respray it with primer, and then I did the primer to try to help protection against erosion or corrosion and stuff like that. And then I sprayed it with base coat and everything, but I had to redo that. So that's why you see that, and only that little piece primer. Okay, so in this picture, I forgot to take a picture of the first coat of base coat. So this is actually the second coat of base coat, and I believe I did 2 coats of base coat. It covered that well. Really good paint. They matched it really well, and I was really happy with it. So if you can see kind of in the back part of this picture, I went all the way up to B pillar and everything, all the way down the A pillar. So that way I had one continuous paint line, and I didn't end up with a clear coat line or anything like that. So onto the next picture is going to be the same. It's second coat of base coat, it's just a different angle. Okay, and the third picture is the finished product that's with your clear, which was 2 coats of clear. I kind of wish now that I would have done 3 coats of clear, because I feel like when I did the bumper, I did 3 coats of clear, and it came out really well, which you'll see in the video with the bumper. So it came out good, don't get me wrong, and once I sand it down and respray it, sand it down and buff it out, it'll look good. But anyway, that's where we are. That's the final. We're just going to stop it right there. I just wanted to kind of go through all this. I hate that I didn't have any footage for y'all to put in here to show me spraying and everything like that. But from now on, I have been able to get pretty much all the footage, I believe. I'll have to go through all my stuff. Anyway, I want to thank y'all for watching our channel. Please keep following us. We're not done yet. I still got quite a few things coming in. I've got the bumper video coming up. I got the GT500 spoiler installed with paint. So I've also got something else that I'm going to pick up, that I got to go pick up for the car to install. That's it's going to be really neat. So anyway, thank y'all again. We appreciate it. Thank y'all for just following the channel. Please like this video. please hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so that way you can be notified every time we pop out a new video. Also, follow us on Instagram right here. So thanks again. Y'all have a great night.